Hey folks, my name is Heathen Rose. This talk is entitled Conquering That Most Human of Fears. And I want to talk to you about a concordance that has happened over the course of my life. Now, concordance is a word that a lot of people don't know, but I think everyone should know it because the concept behind it is beautiful. It describes the process of reaching a conclusion that is suggested by multiple lines of evidence or experience. Now, why is that beautiful? Because it describes the entire history of human thought. Everything we know, from the biology that reveals our evolutionary origins, to the computing inside your phone, to the mechanics of our legal system, to the timeless truths told in love poetry. All human knowledge exists because people throughout history, from diverse backgrounds and across cultures, have been able to draw on each other's experience and investigate the same thing from a multitude of angles. In my case, I was able to do a particular thing by my late 20s that many people never manage, and I did it by drawing on 3 lines of experience. So accordingly, I'd like to tell you 3 stories about myself. The first story is about how I left Christianity. I was brought up in the Church of England. Now, the Anglican Church has a reputation for being the mildest breed of moderate Christianity. In fact, there's an Eddie Izzard joke that if the Anglican Church had carried out the Spanish Inquisition, the choice offered by the torturers would have been tea and cake or death. I would love people who have that perception to meet the Anglicans I grew up with, because they were biblical literalists who believed that the earth was 6,000 years old, that of course women are inferior to men because it says so in the Bible, and that unbelievers are destined for an eternity of torture in hell. And this terrified me at the age of 7 because I could already feel myself beginning to lose my faith. I had realized, even at that age, that the believers all around me were telling me that God was everywhere, invisible, and intelligent. But he couldn't be all 3, for that would violate the fundamental laws of the universe. For example, air is everywhere, and it's invisible, but you can't build a brain out of it. You can build a brain out of neurons, but they're not everywhere, and you can see them. And why would a being who represents supreme good be male anyway? Contradictions like these started to accumulate in my brain, and I could gradually feel myself becoming an atheist. And so I started to lie awake at night, thinking, what if there's nothing on the other side? But what if there's hell? But what if there's nothing? But what if there's hell? But what if there's And I ran into my parents' bedroom in the middle of the night, screaming and crying. I wanted more than anything to live forever. This was my dream, to taste every flavor from around the world, to visit every country, to read every book, to learn every language, to hear every piece of music, to meet every person, to become wise and knowledgeable in all things. But now I realized that if Christianity was true, then I, as a godless heathen, was destined for an eternity of torture in a lake of fire. But if I was right and there was no God, then all I would get was 70 or so years of experience before facing eternal oblivion. Both possibilities seemed equally scary. But I was at least able to put one of my fears to bed, my fear of hell. And I did it with an idea that's now ubiquitous in popular culture, popularized by Paradise Lost. The idea is this. Satan was expelled from heaven for being against God. If unbelievers are sent to hell for being against God, that means unbelievers and Satan are on the same side. At the age of 7, I was unaware that this idea has spawned visions of hell as an eternal sex, drugs, and rock and roll party, or place of learned discussion between philosophers and scientists. But realizing that Satan and I were on the same side allowed me to no longer be scared of hell. But I still had the fear of eternal oblivion to deal with, and at the age of 14, help to deal with that came from a most unexpected source. Her name was Bridie. Bridie was a gorgeous redhead girl in my science class, but of much more interest to me was the army green cargo skirt she often wore. I was so fascinated by that skirt that it's a mystery to me how I ever passed my science class. I used to daydream entire afternoons away fantasizing about wearing it. About how it would feel on my skin, about how it would make me move differently, about how it would make me look more feminine. And at the same time, I was becoming aware that I desperately wanted a female body. And I wanted to wear that skirt. And I wanted a female body. And I wanted to wear skirts. And I wanted a female body. And oh my non-existent God, I'm transgender. Now, having grown up your entire life being socialized as male and always having considered yourself as such, and then turning a corner and realizing that you're actually female is a tough thing to go through. The dissonance between the sex of your body and the gender of your brain is called gender dysphoria, and it's an emotion. It has the same properties as any other human emotion, being an intense and insistent but inconsistent and ethereal thing. But the usual methods of understanding emotions, like empathy and poetry, are not available to you if you can't find other trans people to talk to, which I couldn't growing up in the early noughties in a house with no internet connection. So I was forced to wrap my head around the mechanics of a highly unusual emotion on my own. But the really tough part was realizing that I was in a demographic of whom about half of people die of murder or suicide. I knew that if I ignored my gender dysphoria for long enough, it would just get stronger and stronger, eventually crossing that deadly threshold where I could bear it no more, and I took my own life. But I also knew that if I went through with my gender transition, I was risking becoming permanently visibly trans, and I stood a scarily high chance of being killed anyway. And every day was bringing me closer and closer to that point where I would have to take a leap into being visibly trans, where to walk out of my front door onto the street every day was to roll the dice on my own existence. But what if I did something that got me used to that kind of thing? What if taking a leap of faith into a deadly situation became second nature to me because I was doing that kind of thing as a hobby anyway? Being trans in a transphobic world would become less scary then, for sure. And that's how I made the decision to take up skydiving. A few days before you jump out of a plane, the adrenaline starts to build. But it doesn't make you scared, it just makes you go, whoa, let's get up and do this. The adrenaline lasts on the journey to the aerodrome, as you're waiting for your name to be called, as you're going up in the plane, as the door is opened, right up until that moment when you exit the plane and start falling. At that point, your lizard brain kicks in and tells you you're about to die. If you're on your own, you concentrate like crazy so as to keep calm, go through the drills, and save your own life. If you're strapped to an instructor, you put your faith in their skill and scream. By the time you're 5,500 feet above the ground, you're hurtling towards it at 130 miles per hour, faster than most British trains go. I was literally about to say that exact thing. You stole my joke. It turned out to be a particularly appropriate joke, by the way, because Southern is on strike today. That wasn't even planned. Yeah, by the time you're 5,500 feet above the ground, you're hurtling towards it at 130 miles per hour. At that speed, the wind is a deafening roar in your ears. Then the chute opens. You slow right down from 130 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour. The roaring of wind stops, the imminent fear of death goes away. and now you're just drifting, silently and almost imperceptibly towards the ground, superimposed on a vast blue screen of ecstasy. The euphoria this creates lasts for days, but soon it's replaced by another, stronger feeling, the hunger to do it again. This emotional arc is what makes skydiving addictive, but it's also been recognized as helping people. Along with other extreme sports, it's being used in a movement called action therapy to help people through a range of issues from bereavement to alcoholism. In my case, it made me finally able to conquer my fear of death. There's a joke that skydivers don't knock on death's door, we ring the bell and run away. Putting yourself in imminent danger of death, out of choice, in the hands of highly skilled professionals like that, and surviving, puts things into perspective. Once I'd done it, I knew I had it in me to go through with my gender transition. Transphobic people seem a lot less scary when you know you can jump out of a plane. Once I got used to being visibly trans and facing my mortality every day became normal, death no longer scared me. Having conquered my fear of death in my late 20s, which many people never do, allowed me to face other things that scared me, and a virtuous circle was created, whereby I'm feeling more able to face my fears every day. My friends have called me incredibly strong. This is because the knowledge that I've synthesized from atheism, transgenderism, and skydiving is something that I've been able to apply to all areas of my life. Everything that I do, from running my trans support group, to the heart, soul, and guts that I put into my music, to the compassion that I show my friends, to standing up here and doing this talk, and all the ways that I've become a valued member of the community since moving to Brighton. All of these are downstream effects of conquering that most human of fears. Cheers, folks. Thank you very much indeed. Wow, what a great response. It's the first time I've ever done this and I got that response. That's amazing. So I mentioned that I'm a songwriter, and Sally asked me to do a song as well. Unfortunately, I don't play an instrument and I don't have a band, but I have a pair of lungs! Hey! So this is a song that I wrote as a present for a trans friend of mine who was too scared to have surgery because she didn't trust the doctors to put her to sleep. She was afraid that she was going to go under general anesthetic and never wake up, which does happen sometimes, but it reminded me of the way some people are terrified of flying, even though flying is statistically very safe. So I wrote a song using fear of flying as a metaphor for encouraging her to go through with surgery. And this is called Up in a Plane. In childhood memory, I thought it was so profound that a giant metal tube could leave the ground. And I took in the scene with wild eyes, as soon we became just another part of the sky. Anxiety rose at the departure gate, and they made it clear that flying could seal my fate. But pretty soon I had made landfall, and held all those around me in my thrall, with innocent, excited, fearless tales. But 20 years have passed, and it's grown stale. I want to feel that rush of blood again. Don't ask me if I'm sure, just tell me when. And take me up in a plane, Let soothing chemicals flood my brain. Let me explore exotic lands. Pass that flaming torch to my hand. 'Cause I wanna take my place in the society that invented this way of achieving ecstasy. Let foolish lies fall at the feet of brave honesty. Take me up in a plane. I can read the fear on your face as real. And when I walk in your skin, I can feel how you didn't grow up as I did. From you this engineering was hid. But I want to see your soul lift the ground and be for lands distant bound. To walk on terra firma you're not made, so let your hand no more be stayed. Walk through that departure gate with me, that I may show you the wonders that I see. And with your earthly shackles cast down and thrown, go forth and discover wonders of your own. And let's go up in a plane. May soothing chemicals flood your brain. May you explore exotic lands. Take that flaming torch in your hand. 'Cause I know you've got a place in the society that invented this way of achieving ecstasy. Forever a better person to be. Let's go up in a plane. Let's go up in a plane. Let's go up in a plane. Go up in a plane. Up in a plane.